Welcome, everybody, back to the Court of Q. You will notice this is still an amicable court. We will be judging our two contestants on their debating skills. Now, you might be interested to learn, what is the topic? What is time? What is time really like when alternate realities, multiverses, all these kind of things, these newfangled fads that infect our cinematic universes, but has it happened in Star Trek? Well, what if, a little what if scenario here, if the events of First Contact, remember that? First Contact 2036, First Contact with the Vulcans, and a little help from the Enterprise E. And my question to our two contestants tonight is none other than, which other Star Trek cast would be suitable for the events of Star Trek First Contact had TNG not existed? Had the cast and the crew of TNG not been there to rapidly dispense themselves into the past, which crew, which cast would be most suitable to solve the dilemma of First Contact at the time? Frank, who are you representing on this fine, esteemed occasion?
First of all, Your Honor, thank you to esteemed guest of the panel, esteemed dirty, unwashed masses of the crowd around us.
Oh,
you watching?
Yep, well done.
You watching at home, thank you. I appreciate being here. Not to call a point of order immediately on the judge himself to say you said 2036. It was actually 2063. Yeah. But the judge is infallible and makes no mistakes. I guess it was just me. I misheard. It's fine.
The entire stream misheard it. I couldn't possibly be wrong.
I apologize for being wrong. Had TNG not existed, to me, you will hear arguments from co-counsel here for something else today. But I'm just going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and non-gendered beings, that whatever Star says is because there's only one answer. There's only one crew in all of Star Trek that could do First Contact better than TNG, and that is the crew of Deep Space Nine. And I will present a 40-minute long, textured, pointed out argument with visuals as to why I am correct.
Okay, Stars, who are you representing on this fine occasion?
I address the Honourable Court and the Honourable Judge, and I say this. Not only is Star Trek Discovery the best choice to play host to the events of Star Trek First Contact, of all the Star Trek series to date, I would go so far as to say that it is in fact the only series that can come close to matching the emotional impact and fully realized character focus of the original film, if not in fact surpassing it. First Contact is, after all, a film about the Federation, about the dream of a better future, about the betterment of mankind and ourselves, about our growth in the face of adversity. And for all the risible effluent thrown at Discovery, one cannot claim that the series does not try wholeheartedly to embody these ideals. For the purposes of my argument, I will be focusing on the series and its cast of characters as of just before the end of Season 2. To wit, my principal characters are Michael Burnham, Christopher Pike, Saru, Paul Stamets, Hugh Culber, Ash Tyler, Sylvia Tilly, and Jet Reno.
Well, fantastic. So, on my left, Frank representing the cast of Deep Space Nine. On my right, Stars representing the cast of Star Trek Discovery. Who will be the best at solving the First Contact crisis? Who can defeat the Borg Queen and usher Zefram Cochrane soberly into space? Now, I ask you all first to...
All present respectfully stand...
as we get underway. Now, the rules of this tournament are such. We will have 4 rounds. We will have an opening statement. We will have a evidence-gathering section, a cross-examination, and a closing statement. Opening statements are exclusive, which means you cannot get interrupted for an objection and points on this occasion. You have 5 minutes to get your point across, as it were, and the only judge for the points at the end of that will be me. If you can come to a satisfactory conclusion, I will award you a wonderful 2 points. If, however, you are too slow, have time remaining, or just flat out don't impress me, then I will be docking you points. So, I believe I'll let Stars go first. Let me just get my cue timer here. It's special timer, special cue time. It works, just the way that cues into it, which means it can go off at any time. Anyway, here we go. Your 5 minutes begin now.
All right, so First Contact, we're going to go with a simple plot structure as laid out as in the film. And we have our simple A story, B story. This is a Star Trek plot structure that is the dawn of time. And here is our A story. So, aboard the Discovery, which will take the place of the Enterprise E, Burnham takes upon the Picard role, but as she has no need of Borg trauma, unlike a certain captain that Frank will be relying upon in his argument. Instead, her story arc is fueled by her remorse at letting Starfleet and her captain down during the Battle of the Binary Stars. And when confronted by Lily Sloan, she breaks down over her frustration at needing to be the perfect 23rd century human Vulcan, always needing to live up to Sarek's standards, to her own standards, even as she struggles to hold herself together. Recognizing this trauma in herself as a veteran of a traumatic event like the Third World War, Lily gets through to Burnham by appealing to her Vulcan heritage, specifically by asking who the species they'll meet during First Contact is and why they're so important. And I would like to point out that at the very end of the film, you will see the T'Plana Hath will land, and out will walk Solkar, who is, as most nerds will know, Spock's ancestor, and he will, of course, be played by Ethan Peck. Paul Stamets will take up the role of Data, with his bioengineered relationship with the Tardigrade capturing the Borg Queen's interest. But in my version of events, it won't be a queen, because guess what? The Borg Queen devalues the concept of the Borg. Instead, you will have a partially assimilated Hugh Culber to deal with. Ash Tyler takes up Worf's role in the plot, acting as Burnham's morality or anchor, appealing to her better nature, since it's what he fell in love with. But due to the distance that is built over them, but as a result of the events of season 1, he can't get through to her like Lily can. Saru will take up the role of Dr. Crusher, but here he leads the initial attack on engineering, uses his post-Bahari strength to brutalize his drones and showcase his new fearlessness. And now we move over to the B story, which is why I'm particularly proud. So, down on Earth, Christopher Pike takes up Commander Riker's role, while Tilly takes up Troy's, with Tilly getting rip-roaring drunk with Cochrane. But while Riker's appeals to Cochrane's better nature were fueled by a relative self-interest and a philosophical appeal to the man's want for humanity to succeed, Pike instead empathizes with Cochrane about the weight of history and confides with him about the future he's glimpsed for himself on Boreth. The two bond over the crushing nature of becoming the men they're expected to be, and they share a handshake as they agree to meet their destinies with their chin up and their head held high. Jet Reno, of course, takes up Geordie's role in the story, but instead of blurting out the events of the future because of emotional incontinence, she's as blunt as ever. And while she respects Cochrane on an intellectual level, personally, she finds him to be kind of an asshole, especially since he keeps on hitting on her and not getting the hint. I find that if you take this as a measured whole, you will see that while this has some of the same plot structure and beats as First Contact, it is on the whole a different take on the structure of it, and more in keeping with the themes of the creation of the Federation, with the characters being closer to that initial event and having a personal stake in it rather than a historical one. And while my esteemed colleague may try and appeal to, pithy things such as Borg trauma, I feel like you'd have to be an idiot not to see that this is a mere retread, a repeat, a nostalgic reboot done without love, without affection, a mere redo of the original TNG cast take on the same events.
Well, on that bell, that is the end of your section. Well timed. That gets you a wonderful 2 points in the bag. Yes. I would clap you if I had hands, but I left them on a planet exploring on their own. Frank, please, give us your opening statements. You have a Q Continuum-styled 5 minutes, beginning now.
Bravo, stars, bravo. One thing you didn't count on is that Frank never prepares. I forgot Ben Sisko had Borg trauma till you said it. Thanks for the freebie. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you...
Thank you for walking into my trap.
Haha. Let me tell you why Deep Space Nine...
Okay, sit it down. Sorry. Please carry on.
Deep Space Nine... Thank you, Your Honor. Deep Space Nine makes the most sense. Now, let me paint a picture for you. Close your eyes and just imagine a beautiful field of stars. Not this stars, different stars. The year is 2373. The starship Defiant, on its way to Earth, packed to the gills with various crew members because there's a special reception on Earth for members of DS9 for their contributions to the ongoing peace structures of several races, and they're being honored by what I am sure are several bad admirals somewhere on Earth that will eventually turn on them. And in the parts various too, in the normal First Contact movie that you are all used to, that everyone hates because it's not really a good movie. Captain Sisko, of course, will be playing the role of Captain Picard, but unlike my colleague who only had an A and B story, we're going to have an A, a B, a C, a D, and an E plot story. And Captain Sisko is going to be off once they're in the past, playing a game of cat and mouse with the Borg Queen. He and she are going to kind of be off doing their own thing. That's going to be their own plot thing. He's not going to be centralized to the story of First Contact, because really, when you break it down, the story of First Contact is humanity rising up from the ashes of the Third World War, when Earth was just at its absolute lowest, and a drunken Montana and his friends trying to find the courage to get aboard a rickety missile and launch into space and break the warp barrier for the first time, showing humanity what they are actually truly capable of at their worst moments. And also some Vulcans flying by that are like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. So that's going to be the main focus of our story, is Earth at its lowest and coming up. And the Star Trek characters are just going to kind of play background to it, instead of them being the focus, and the Earth characters and actual First Contact playing a secondary role. So Sisko and Borg Queen, they're going to be off doing their own thing. We'll cover that later. You're going to be focused on the other members of the Defiant that are there with us. Worf, who will be playing the part of Worf from First Contact.
How original.
I know. Also, Your Honor, I was to believe that I was not to be interrupted in this way.
That is
so
very true.
please.
No, you are fine. Yeah, I'll dock a point for that one.
Thank you,
This
Your
is an
Honor.
equitable court. We will, please... Oh, hang on.
Criminal, you will read the charges to the court.
Now, you simmer down as well. Right, carry on, Frank, please. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Very upset. 2 minutes. Oh, Your Honor. Okay, then. So the driving the con of the Defiant, of course, is Helmsman Wyatt, as he is. He will be playing the part of Hawk, who will get assimilated. We'll get to that later. Jadzia will be playing multiple parts. She will be playing the part of Geordi and the part of Counselor Troy. She will get drunk with Cochrane. Your main engineering people, of course, Rom and Miles O'Brien, who will help facilitate fixing the Phoenix and fixing the Defiant, who will be in shambles from the Battle of Sector 001 to get it back through the time vortex at the end. Julian Bashir will be there to creepily hit on women, I'm very sure. Kira will be playing the part of Riker. She will be in the Phoenix with Miles O'Brien, and they will be the ones helping guide Zephram Cochrane to their the first warp destination. And get this, Garrick will be there. Garrick will be off on our C plot doing something. He will be assassinating a leader of an Earth nation that was meant to be assassinated, and you sit there and you scratch your head and you go, well, wait, if history records this leader was assassinated and that ended some terrible things and Earth went on to live prosperously at the same time that First Contact happened, just like Scotty saying, how do I know he didn't invent the thing with Star Trek 4 and transparent aluminum? How do we know Garrick didn't assimilate or assassinate the guy the whole time? Aha, see? And then big special, Jake, everybody's favorite Jake, will be there. His sole mission in the E-plot will be to procure a Willie Mays baseball card that on the show he gives to his father in the year 2373, because it's easier to get an ancient baseball card at this time on the Earth than it is, thank you, in the 2300s. And Nog will be a part of our F plot, because Nog will get...
The bell signifies you are out of time, but I will...
Nog will be meeting with the ancestor of Nurse Faith Garland.
Right, well, in which case
You got to take points away for that.
In the G plot, where we go back to Deep Space Nine. Where Deep Space
you're
Nine
overstepping your authority there. That is
chaos.
a point lost, and you didn't
Quark
finish
is in
within
charge
the
of Deep Space Nine.
Parameters. Okay, on to our next round, evidence gathering. You cannot come to any conclusion without forms of evidence. Thank you, Cranky, for giving a sub out. Thank you very much for that. Now, evidence gathering, please submit yourselves 2 pieces of evidence to support your arguments. Now, during this evidence, the opposing person can object. If their objection is is sustainable, I will award them a point. If not, the opposing person will get a point. So judge your objections wisely. Please do not just object over and over again, otherwise I shall have to silence you. And the only thing I have to ask now is...
How plead you, criminal?
Stars, would you like to begin us?
All right. Well, guess what? My 2 points of evidence will be relating into my A plot and my B plot. So my A plot, I'm really quite proud of the refocusing of the trauma that Burnham has gone through, because I feel like when people talk about Discovery, they often rag on Burnham as she's too central, she's too perfect, she's the hero of the Federation, and I feel like what people don't get is that she is, by her very nature, an imperfect person. And she struggles with that. Not only is she traumatized, but she's also proud. She's a little bit haughty. She finds it very, very hard to ask for help. And I feel like these are really interesting personality traits to bring into the forefront in the middle of First Contact, because Picard has some of those traits as well. But I feel like Burnham brings a different dimension to it, especially since she'll be interacting a lot with Lily here. And I feel like that's a really good a conversation between two Black women. How often does that actually happen in Star Trek? Actually, how often does that happen? And the refocusing, you were talking, Frank, about how we want to make First Contact and about humanity. Well, who better epitomizes the themes of dragging yourself out of the mud and getting out of ruin than Michael Burnham? She has had one of the most awful lives. She has had so much loss, so much just trauma heaped upon her, and the ability to help and get through that and to externalize those factors and go through it, that's a really, really powerful statement about the strength of the Federation and what Starfleet means to people.
So your piece of evidence is Michael Burnham.
Yes, Michael Burnham is amazing. That's my
piece of evidence.
And guess what? You can't dispute that, because that is a canon fact. As all Star Trek Discovery has shown us, she is the most incredible individual.
I certainly do associate Michael Burnham with the word awful. You are correct.
You have to take a point away for that.
I would like to hear opposing argument before I decide on a point on this occasion. Everyone has a right to an opinion. You can still be wrong, but you have your right to express it. Frank, please express why you potentially could be right or wrong.
Well, and good try, Stars. Good try. But yes, we need to focus on humanity. And look at the cast of DS9. DS9 is the most diverse cast of all the Star Trek cast, with the amount of aliens and people from different backgrounds and different, problems, race wars between different planets and different treaties being broken. You've got Bajorans, you've got Klingons, you've got Ferengi, you've got, I'm sure, a lot more that humans, a Trill, several things.
Am I allowed to object again?
You can object now at any time.
Cool. I object. You claim to put humanity first in your DS9 film treatment of First Contact, and yet you have sidelined every human character in the favor of alien characters, including Benjamin Sisko, Jake Sisko. The only human who appears to be involved with the Earth plot and the actual Rising of the Phoenix is Miles O'Brien.
Your Honor, allow me to give the counterpoint. Miles O'Brien will be drunk most of the movie. And it's about aliens showing the humans what humanity actually is, because humans only know humans up until this point, and they don't truly know humanity. To know humanity is to accept the wider universe and the wider idea of being in existence, and they can't do that until they meet a Ferengi, again, since they already met a Ferengi in the 1960s.
Sorry, John Frederick Paxson was calling me. I didn't hear your entire argument there. That's a point for Stars. Frank, your first piece of evidence. This is an equitable court. I will have no right.
Get to your feet, criminals!
Frank, your first piece of evidence.
So my first piece of evidence is the ensemble cast of different backgrounds coming together in the 5-hour movie with the 9 different plot points and side stories going that allow everybody to have a different level of interaction, meeting with people of the time and bringing them up to a level that allows them to become that higher form of human that higher form of being and realize the capacity and the potential of the human race to be the founders and leaders of the Federation, the United Federation of Planets, and ultimately Starfleet. Not worrying about the Borg threat, not worrying about going through, holodeck programs with Tommy Gunn Dixon and shooting things up, although we will have a hologram sequence, and it will be Bashir, Julian Bashir, and it will involve the murder of several Borg because they will be tied to a rocket that has no holodeck safeties that goes up and explodes. But that's a different plot point altogether. We're not worried about that right now. It is going to encapsulate learning, and it's going to encapsulate empathy. Zephram Cochrane is a drunk. Miles O'Brien is a drunk. They're both drunk humans. They're both engineers. They can't learn from each other. But when you get Rom, who is neither a drunk nor a human, but is an engineer there to rub off on Zephram Cochrane, he says, hey, maybe I don't need to be a drunk. Maybe I can look at things differently, because he's going to be racist. He's going to insult Rom. He's going to say horrible things about Rom, because it turns out, he's a human and he's...
Simmer down.
But it's his first time meeting an alien. The Vulcan's going to be like the 13th alien he meets. He's not going to be really impressed with the Vulcan, because he's going to be like, hey, I got the Klingon here, I got the Ferengi here, I got a Cardassian. Garrick's going to be
the court has to interrupt here. What exactly is your piece of evidence, rather than the whole summary of the plot of the film?
Oh, that's just the B story. But the evidence is...
Sorry, I thought that was the E story, or was it maybe the F story?
Or was
it the FUCKU story?
No, that's Jake going off in search of a baseball card and having to get a job to pay for it. No, the evidence is the different melting pot of races and ideas of people coming together to show the humans of 2063 what they can be.
Stars.
Objection.
Please.
This entire. Guess what? Melting pot is the correct term, because Frank is just throwing narrative elements into the stew here and trying to see what comes together. My thesis is clear. It's coherent. Everything's lined up, and we're dealing with Willie Mays baseball cards and MCU-like appeals to nostalgia by referring to old episodes with continuity lockout. Who's going to enjoy this movie? How does you are allowing your love of Deep Space Nine deep cuts to get in the way of telling a true, honest, deep story? It's disappointing.
I have ruled a judgment, and seeing as I love pointing at the screen Leo style and going, I remember that, I will give Frank the point on this occasion. Stars, your second piece of evidence.
All right, guess what? My second piece of evidence is rock solid, and it's going to knock your socks off. In the Season 2 episode, In the Valley of Shadows, there is the following exchange after Captain Pike looks at the time crystals in the Caves of Borath. Vogt says to him, you may still choose to walk away from this future, but if you take the crystal, your fate will be sealed forever. There will be no escaping it. And Pike, who is traumatized, he is panicked, he is anxious, he has never known a fear like this, reaches down within himself and says, you're a Starfleet captain. You believe in service, sacrifice, compassion, in love. No, I'm not going to abandon the things that make me who I am because of a future that contains an ending I hadn't foreseen for myself. And if that doesn't perfectly epitomize what the Zephram Cochrane storyline is about, and its resonance with the Gene Roddenberry narrative, and his imperfect nature as a human being, and about the commonalities between these two historical figures, then I don't know what does. These are two men who are being crushed underneath the weight of history, and who find it within themselves to push forward and accept it, but on their own terms. And that's a lot better. Like, who even is the Riker analog? It's Kira? You didn't even bring up the potential idea of, hey, Kira's from Bajor, which has gone through an awful Holocaust, and maybe she has some experience.
Okay, the court interjects here. Please do not rag on the opposing argument for now. That will come over in cross-examination. Please stick to your own piece of singular evidence, Stars.
I haven't even started to get into my D plot, and
I'm just trying to give him some help. He's struggling here.
Objection,
anyway.
Your Honor. His plot, his arguments are so razor thin that he's having to throw mud at me.
I will have order in this court, please. The two of you fix your squabbling or I will deduct points from the both of you. Stars, please iterate very simply, what is your piece of evidence? Is it Pike's emotional journey, or what are we going for here?
It's Pike's emotional journey,
Fantastic.
and guess what? It's Anson Mount as Captain Christopher Pike. And I asked the court, is there any better argument for the beauty of Star Trek and Starfleet and the Federation than Anson Mount?
Frank, your rebuttal, please.
Well, so my first plot point was teaching humanity how it can grow by a wide variety cast of characters and aliens. My second plot point, unlike yours, is going to focus on the humanity of a captain who has struggles and has to grow from it. You're going to see humanity grow from a different perspective. And that is one Captain Benjamin Lafayette Sisko, who has a history with the Borg, who lost his wife and so many people at the Battle of Wolf 359. Now having to go back in time when they were on their way to a fabulous reception. They were going to have, like, you know, banquet chicken, I'm sure, and it was going to be very boring. And
Objection! The food at the reception is not pertinent to this argument.
I will allow that objection. Please carry on.
I am showing that Earth has not grown beyond serving banquet chicken. Imagine what they can serve in the future, knowing that so many other possibilities exist. This is how dire Earth is. They just had World War III, and you go and it's banquet chicken. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to ignore this.
The point goes to Stars. Anyway, let's move on to cross-examination. Oh, wait, no, you have one more piece of evidence, don't you? Please, Frank, your final piece of evidence. Is that where we are?
I think the judge has been drinking. So,
that's a lost point. You just got yourself a point already.
Benjamin Lafayette Sisko is coming face to face with the embodiment of the one thing that gives him so much trauma. As a man, as a human, as a father, as a husband, as a captain, as a Starfleet officer, as a Bajoran Jesus, and that is the Borg Queen. And they will have a cross-movie fight going on, battle of wits, not physical battle, until the very end, where the Benjamin Sisko realizes that all that hatred is making him a terrible person, much like humanity. All the hatred of the 2060s and even today and the World War, all that hatred did nothing. He has to rise above it. So in the finale of the moment where he realizes, I have to let my hate go, I also have to entrap the Borg Queen, where we're both somehow tied to the warp core, and the warp core gets ejected out. They're on the other side of the moon, so the Vulcans won't see them, and they eject the warp core with Benjamin and the Borg Queen and several Borg, including Wyatt, who's been assimilated, all tied to it. It's a great action sequence, great Jerry Goldsmith score, and then Garrick, who's still in engineering, hits a button and transports Sisko out as he is in space and starting to die from oxygen deprivation and freezing.
Objection! Garrick cannot be present in two of these plot points. How is he on the planet assassinating a world leader and also aboard the Defiant?
Because he's a master assassin and a tailor, and he can make an outfit, and he's really good, and you don't need to worry about that. And they detonate the warp core, and it blows everything up. And Sisko thinks
to argue about time. We don't have the time.
Indeed, we do not. Please summarize.
Jadzia will be drunk saying that very line too. But Benjamin Sisko will have been prepared to give his life to rid himself of hatred, and he learns that other people love him, and he's worth so much more living than he is dead, and all he has to do is open up his heart and accept the love from Garrick.
Objection! This is a retread of plot points from Emissary.
I don't think Star Trek is mutually exclusive from repeating plot points. I'm going to overrule that objection.
But you're repeating character development, because you already learned to let go of the moment of existing in Jennifer's death.
Is there any... Well, perhaps, but we haven't actually established when this DS9 cast was set, although Worf is there. But
he said 2373.
He did say 2373. I'm going to give the point to Frank, because I feel that was a convincing enough argument that for those reasons that I said, that are perfectly valid reasons. And anyway,
all present respectfully stand.
On to our next section. The points as they stand. Frank standing low with 1 point. Stars racing off into the lead with 4 points. There's anything to play for in this cross-examination. Now you will get a chance to ask your opposing partner a question regarding their argument. So, please, Frank, go ahead.
My first question is, how many times do you have Michael Burnham scripted to cry in your movie?
3 times.
I was about to say 3.
No. Rule 3. It's a narrative
Sit
rule.
down. Was that your entire question?
No, I have 7 questions prepared. That was number 1.
Will you get to?
Number 2, which is a follow-up to number 1, but not actually my second question. It's just a follow-up. Think of it as 1B, Your Honor. Thank you. You look very effervescent today.
That's a point.
Is Michael Burnham is going to be crying. Is that actually going to do anything, or is that going to take away like 10 minutes of the movie where she's just sitting there looking out a window and crying and thinking about Sarek and her brother Spock and all these things, instead of actually solving the crisis of humanity at that time and the Borg coming to assimilate them? And how do they get home in First Contact because Zephram Cochrane is drunk with, you said, Tilly getting drunk with him, and how are they going to pilot the ship? And, you know...
Was there a question in there, or...?
Yeah, the disco cast is just no good, and I don't know why...
More a
That's
statement
not
than a
point.
question.
Yeah, that's an opinion, in fact.
The disco cast is no good?
Are you really going to tell me that Captain Christopher Pike is no good?
He's not in the disco cast. He's in Strange New
He
Worlds, which you should have
actually
picked.
is. I'm sorry. Discovery Season 2, he is absolutely a cast member. He's in the
never
opening
watched
credits,
it.
my friend.
I've never watched it.
That's your problem.
No, I think that's a point for stars on this occasion for unclear questioning on this occasion. Stars, your question for Frank, please.
All right. So, Frank, I think you'll agree with me that Hollywood is in a rut right now of creative, like, malaise of just constantly recycling old ideas. So I ask you, why did you think it was acceptable to come here with your half-baked script where it's just full of nothing but references and nostalgia and reheated ideas, whereas I come to the table with something new and fresh and idealistic? All you have to offer is 90s reheated leftovers. You have Ecto Cooler. That's all you've got.
If you want to talk about 90s reheated leftovers, look at yourself, buddy. Because all you've done is taken an existing movie and you've replaced everybody.
I believe we are lacking questions in this questioning section and more vague statements than your mama's insults.
I was asking a
attack.
question of why he thought it was acceptable to come here with a nostalgia-ridden piece of crap.
And that's a personal attack. And you know what? I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it with the respect that it deserves. So your movie is a direct one-for-one rehash. You just went through and recasted it. That's all you did. You gave zero effort. You gave negative effort. You gave the same effort I gave to Big McLarge, who I destroyed a couple of years back on our Pros and Cons. Go watch it in the archives, link below.
And that's so much worse than having 20 interconnected plots that go nowhere.
It's an amazing story. Think about it. You're in the cinema. Cinema sucks these days. But think about going to a movie theater, sitting in a big, comfortable chair.
Objection! My opponent is a snake oil salesman.
Then that was never in dispute.
I'm trying to tell you, how amazed would you be if you're going beat by beat by beat, where there's just amazing interconnected stuff. You see Jake just slinging newspapers on a bike. He has a job as a newsie, just like he did in a flashback episode, trying to make enough money to buy a Willie Mays card that he doesn't actually end up getting enough money because it's like $100,000.
Objection! I would like to ask the judge how scintillated he would be by a Jake Sisko B plot.
I'm already bored of this plot, so let's give a point to stars and we will move on to our next section. I was going to give you 2 questions, but you two seem to misunderstand the nature of the name question. We will go on to our closing statements, your final chance to declare your argument, as it were, full. And yes, objections can come at any point, please. They should be quick fire, quick questions. Interrupt the argument, win some points. But you now, gentlemen, have 5 Q minutes again to support your closing statement. Stars will begin this time.
I immediately object. Because this court is not fair and I know, but this court is not fair and equitable.
It is absolutely fair and equitable. It is so equitable. You're losing a point. So there we go. That's how equitable I can be. That's how fair I am.
You allowed me to tell you about the end of the movie, which is an amazing battle, because all during this going on,
done to earn your disrespect.
Deep Space Nine is under attack because Quark is left in charge of Deep Space Nine. Morn takes over the bar. Riggs Dabo. It's just pure havoc, and Dukat comes.
Objection! My opponent is at the 21st plot point.
Yeah, I'm going to also have to intercede
arrives with a fleet. Martok arrives with a fleet and takes out Dukat.
Let me just mute Frank. Anyway, no.
There we go.
Stars, please go ahead and start your argument. You're not actually muted, Frank.
Now, here's the thing. Star Trek Discovery, you would think it is named because it's all about discovering outer space and the wonders of the cosmos, and to a degree it is. But it's actually getting at a point that is been about Star Trek ever since the 1960s, which is that it's about discovery of our inner selves and our better nature. And I really do have to ask, is there another cast that doesn't have to rely on easy plot hooks or nostalgia to more perfectly replicate but also enhance the themes of the original? Like,
Objection! A plot. Is there a cast that doesn't have to rely on it? Discovery's whole thing is we have this magic spore drive you've never heard of, powered by mushrooms and little floating things, and we can go anywhere in the universe and through time.
yeah. Counter objection. Guess what? This fixes the plot hole with First Contact of how they managed to get back to the future.
They just reopen the tachyon portal, the vortex.
Oh yeah, that old trick that they can just do without a
Yeah.
deflector dish.
Point to Frank. Please carry on, Stars.
Thank you.
Anyway, guess what? People don't give Star Trek Discovery a fair shake, and I feel like it deserves a chance. It deserves a chance to show on the big screen. And guess what? I would also like to point out a point that Shai actually brings up. The only Academy Award winner in these shows is on Discovery. We have a caliber of actor on Discovery. Guess what? Not even TNG can quite. But you know, I'd also like to just rag on Frank for having Benjamin Lafayette Sisko, one of the best characters in all of Star Trek, and sidelining him into a cat and mouse plot with the Borg Queen, and not like making him central to the narrative. Like, how many actual plot? How many words have you dedicated to Benjamin Sisko in this entire play?
Please stick to your own closing statement, please. You had your chance to rag on, Frank, and you took it to
Thank
due
you.
course.
It's just
Thank
so
you.
easy.
Please carry
And
on
that's
with your
so
statement.
easy.
You have 1 Q minute remaining.
The Borg Queen is not the big bad of my movie. It's assimilated Wyatt.
Wow. Wow.
1 minute remaining.
Well, guess what? Discovery, First Contact, they are a marriage made in heaven. They carry on the themes of one another. They are all about the centrality of the Federation, its ideals, and the idea of becoming a better person. And I honestly don't think that DS9, while it's an amazing show, has quite the same driving force. It's more about an exploration of politics in the future, not about where we get to that future, which is what Discovery and First Contact are all about. Thank you. I conclude my statement.
A marriage made for divorce.
Point view, Stars. Frank, your closing statement begins now.
Imagine yourself. The point of this whole argument is what cast would make a better movie, and no movie theater would be more packed than mine with a cast from Deep Space Nine. No moviegoer would be more captivated than with my 5-hour opus concluding in the battle of our epic big bad, assimilated Wyatt, on Earth, getting ready to start assimilating humans, and Worf going down bravely to fight him one-on-one, and he gets off his epic line as he gets in the driver's seat of a motor vehicle, looks deadpan at Wyatt and says, "Assimilate this," puts it in drive, hits the gas, and mows right over Wyatt. Runs him over, vehicular manslaughter, and that's how he stops the Borgus.
Objection! This vehicle combat is reminiscent of Star Trek Nemesis. That is an instant point against it.
I'll allow it. I'll say vehicular combat is a norm for Star Trek, as in The Voyage Home, Nemesis, and many other high-octane action scenes, including a recent episode of Star Trek Discovery. So I will give Frank a point for that interruption. Please carry on.
If I wanted them to do battle on a deflector dish, I would have just made First Contact with the Next Generation crew or with the Discovery crew like you're going to do. No, I'm trying to do it differently. I'm trying to give everybody a different beat but do the same things. And this is Worf's big moment where he realizes he can save the Earth, and he is an action hero. He one day can be captain, although I think he blows up the Enterprise E when he does that. But that's neither here nor there. My movie will be filled with dramatic, with pain, with excitement, with thought-provoking, with drama and suspense.
Objection! My opponent is using words like dramatic and thought-provoking as, like, instead of drama or thought provocation, where he is speaking incorrectly.
This is not a
English
task
is
on
not my first
intelligence.
language.
It's not a task on intelligence.
English.
I will give you. I'll give you a point, Frank, for that one. You're allowed to use whichever vehicular to get your point across as you like. You have 2 minutes remaining. Please continue.
English is not my first language. How dare you, sir? Maybe not Benjamin Sisko. Maybe you're the
Is
racist.
it any of your languages?
Oh, hang on.
Anyway,
Please continue.
ladies and gentlemen of the court, just picture yourselves paying $75 for a movie ticket to go see this amazing piece. And no, I know you're wanting to object and say piece of crap. No, it's an amazing, it will be an Academy Award winning movie. It will win a lot of awards because it will just captivate anybody who watches it like they're being held at gunpoint or phaser point, to imagine what could humanity be, what could we be if we just opened up our minds a little bit. And when Nog meets with the ancestor of Faith Garland, who says,
Objection! This man is trying to sell me a $75 cinema ticket so I can watch Nog and Faith Garland.
No, you can't. Don't even try.
the granddaughter of Faith Garland long dead, the granddaughter of Faith Garland, who says, my grandmother always told me about funny-looking Martians with big ears.
And that is your timer for the end of your closing statement. I think I have to give you a pity point there, Frank. You did try and soldier through that epic opus of a DS9 novel, and at the
Computer.
end...
Erase that entire personal log.
Yes, we'd all be grateful for that. But at the end of that scintillating argument, we have Frank on 5 points and stars in the lead, winning the game at 7 points. Which cast would he be better? Replacement for the TNG cast in First Contact? It clearly is the Star Trek Discovery cast. However, Frank, I will give you another sympathy point because I actually genuinely would like to go and see this DS9 epic, 5-hour epic.
I told you.
Sound quite
I told
good.
you.
So
Even
in
the
a
judge
way,
would rather
you won,
watch.
but in a realistic way, you didn't.
Yeah,
anyway,
I
thank
won.
you all for watching Pros and Cons.
I won.
Frank needs to continue his reign of terror. Keep an eye out. We will do this again. We'll go back to the show.